up at midfield for this one. There's a look at Trinidad, and Canada will wear white. Let's check the lineups for you. First of all, for Canada, Bob, absolutely no changes. The question is, will there be some subs like there was the other day?
Well, the only question mark prior to the game was, would he keep Nash in for Zauza and Cush in for Pesh? Obviously, he's decided to go with the same starting lineup, but he now knows he can go to the bench.
Now, as far as Trinidad and Tobago are concerned, the big deal, of course, Dwight York with that injured leg, unable to play.
Jaron Nixon, number 11, replaces York. Nixon, very good player, plays in Switzerland. And in spite of the fact that Dwight York is not playing, Canada, again, doesn't want to take too much comfort from that.
All right, for a change, they had some sunshine in Southern California today. No rain as this one gets set to go. So let's send you to the LA Coliseum. Semi-final, Canada against Trinidad and Tobago. The winner will play Colombia in the final. And as I said, Canada in white, Trinidad and Tobago in red, and we are underway here at the LA Coliseum.
And tonight, Canada will face a Trinidadian team that will line up in a 4-4-2 formation. So it'll be interesting to see if Holger Osiek adjusts his lineup as a result of what he's facing, because most of the time they've faced teams that have played a similar style in that Canada plays a 3-5-2.
So once again, it will be Corazon and Pescasolido up front for Canada, and that 5 midfield formation of Brennan, Stalteri, Clark, Zauza, and Hastings, who has played so well, obviously. The solid back line of DeVos, Menezes in the middle, and Watson, and then Craig Forrest with his 51st cap for Canada between the posts.
Paul Pescasolido, although he's done his fair share of work when Canada haven't had the ball, he's done a good job of closing the opposition down. He really hasn't factored that much into the attack. And one of the things that might benefit him today is the fact that Trinidad are playing with a flat back four, so it might allow him more space to attack.
A tiny crowd at the Coliseum. That's not to take anything away from the importance of this game. The organizers here fully expecting both Mexico and the United States to be alive. And there was over 90,000 for the final last time this Gold Cup championship match was played, and that was the USA and Mexico. But with those teams not involved, the interest here has dwindled. Very few here for Canada and Trinidad and Tobago.
I think it's important to note, too, that it's not just these two countries that are suffering from the dismissal of the USA and Mexico. Last night, Colombia and Peru only drew 3,000 people, so the interest has waned considerably.
17 is Anthony Rougier, who gets it in front, and of course Forrest is there easily handling that one. And of course this is a championship game in its own right, because these are the last two teams left from CONCACAF, from the Football Confederation, and so the winner will claim the CONCACAF championship here and thus get an invitation to the prestigious Confederation Cup.
Of course, aside from the prestige of playing against the other Confederation champions, is the financial windfall that might result as a result of getting through to the Confederations Cup. We're not sure what that is just yet, but it's certain to be substantial.
Clayton Ince, the keeper for Trinidad and Tobago, due to the injury to number 1 Shaka Hislop, who broke his leg in a Premier League game a couple of weeks ago. Here's Brennan for Canada. Bumped off the ball, got it back, but then Trinidad come away. This is Arnold Duarica, who has played very well for them in the tournament.
And Duarica and Nixon, the two front runners for Trinidad, will be familiar to Jason DeVos. I've often talked about the Olympic qualifying for the Sydney Olympics, and Duarica and Nixon both were playing for Trinidad against Jason DeVos at that time.
10 is Russell Lataby, very good player from the midfield for Trinidad. Trinidad moving forward, and there's a shot right there that Forrest had to be sharp on, but it wasn't a great shot. He would have liked to have done better on that, I'm sure.
Well, McKee had it set up nicely for him, but unfortunately he didn't hit the sweet spot, and he struck it into the ground, and it bobbled into Craig Forrest's hands. But a good chance for Trinidad early in the game. Well, we talked off the top about the fact that Canada are not necessarily the underdogs in this game. If anything, as a result of their previous record against Trinidad, they're the favorites. And I think the players realize that those results really aren't a factor at this point. But what will be interesting is to see if Canada can adjust their game. They needn't sit as far back as they have done in the first 3 games. Can they take the initiative and attack the Trinidadians?
Well, and these teams should be quite familiar with each other, having played in a friendly a month or so ago in Trinidad, that game ending in a 0-0 draw. Although I doubt if either Holger Osiek or Bertil St. Clair were giving anything away in that match, knowing that they could potentially meet in the Gold Cup. Stalteri. All the way back, and Forrest will send it downfield.
I don't think Craig Forrest would have been happy with that back pass. It looked like it was comfortably to him, but not a great ball at this stage of the game.
So far, most of the play in the Canadian zone. 17 is Anthony Rougier. Puts it back in play. Lataby, watched by Stalteri.
You got a glimpse of Lataby there and what he's capable of. He'll keep possession of the ball. He'll go at players and attack them. He'll distribute it from the middle of midfield, and he's also capable of scoring goals, as he did against Guatemala.
Lataby, the captain for Trinidad and Tobago. Pardon me, it's Rougier who's the captain. My mistake on that one. Foul there. David Zausa.
Holger Osiek was not known for man-marking certain players. He'd prefer to play in a zone.
Another shot there for Trinidad and Tobago, so they've had a couple of cracks at it here. Neither the shot they wanted from a good position to shoot from. Canada now on the attack with Zausa. Looking for Brennan, but knocked clear.
Talked about Canada playing zonal defense, so they will pick up players as they come into their area rather than anyone being assigned a man-marking responsibility.
DeVos. Headed by Pesca-Solido, but Trinidad and Tobago take over. Nakid. Another foul there going Trinidad's way with Coliseum involved in that one.
Right now, Canada are adopting a similar game plan to what they did in the previous 3 matches, and the game is a very tentative one right now. I don't think either team wants to throw caution to the wind, and understandably so.
Here's Rougier. Brennan, who plays so well defensively, back on that play.
While Canada operate with a 3-5-2, a lot of the time you'll see Brennan back in the defensive third, tracking players back, so it can almost be a 5-3-2 at times.
The last time these teams played before that 0-0 draw in Trinidad and Tobago, as you look at Holger Osiek, was in 1995. Canada won the game 3-1, as we talked about at the top of the show. Paul Pesca-Solido scored one of those goals. The only other 2 players still active on this team, or still on the field at least from that game, are Craig Forrest and Mark Watson. Clark. Zausa. Pesca-Solido to Clark. He lofts one in there, and the keeper, Clayton Ince, had to be sharp to get that one.
Jeff Clark getting in the cross from the right. The previous game, early on in the game against Mexico, he got some excellent crosses into the box. That one was just drifted a little bit too high and made it easy for Ince, who's over 6 feet, to come and collect it quite comfortably.
Stalteri. Menezes, who has moved up. Hastings. Brennan there working on his man. Naked.
One of the the most pleasing aspects of this tournament so far for Hull Grosiuk has to be the fact that prior to the tournament starting, who would have suggested that Richard Hastings and Jeff Clark would play as significant roles as they have done?
Trinidad now. Menezes there to clear that one away.
And that's where Menezes is very effective. If there's a slip up at the back, more often than not, he's there to cover up for a defensive miscue.
Trinidad in close again, and that shot is wide. Wow, from number 11, Jaron Nixon, who's in for Dwight York.
And that's the second time that Trinidad have had shots from almost center goal. And Craig Forrest would have had no chance. Nixon toe pokes it because he feels Jason DeVos just recovering and likely to get a tackle, and perhaps he shot quicker than he really needed to.
So Trinidad showing some offensive flair here, not getting the shots away perhaps as they would like to, but getting in position for good opportunities, and that has to be a concern for Canada.
Well, it might be a concern. Having said that, if we think back to the first game against Costa Rica, Craig Forrest was the hero of the day that day, saving shot after shot. So they seem to be riding a bit of good fortune right now, and as evidenced by the coin toss, that's probably as good a fortune as you can get. So, but I don't know if they want to continue to tempt fate in that way.
Arica going up for that one, but it comes to David Zaza. DeVos. Hastings there. You know, we talk about the problems that Trinidad have in goal with Clayton Ince having to replace Shaka Hislop. How about Craig Forrest? If Canada were to lose this game, he'd be on a business ticket plane back to London, landing at 10 a.m. Saturday morning, and then suiting up to play against Everton in a league match Saturday afternoon.
Well, I'm sure that adrenaline will factor into how well he plays. Let's just hope that he's not traveling back. That would mean that Canada would win this match.
And it would mean that Sasha Illich would play. They've picked him up from Charlton Athletic on loan for the next month. So, interesting things happening for Craig Forrest and West Ham United. Stalteri. DeVos. Brennan. He's quick. Couldn't get through there, though. Latipi back to help out. Rozier then sends it forward.
That's a great bit of composure from Russell Latipi. A very dangerous maneuver. If he's dispossessed on the edge of his box, Canada have a clear run towards the Trinidad goal.
And here come Trinidad again. Sending that one in, and it's not out of harm's way yet. Here's Brennan trying to bring it down and nicely getting it forward.
Trinidad looking quite comfortable, keeping possession when they're allowed to, and at the same time, if they get the chance to make that incisive final pass, they're able to do so as well. The thing that's let them down thus far is their finishing.
Naked leaving it for Latipi. Naked. Guarica. Taken away by Hastings. Downfield from Corrs. Good work.
And Richard Hastings in a defensive midfield role, an unfamiliar one for him. He plays at left back at his club side, but certainly as a result of his performance on Sunday against Mexico, Hull Grosiuk again has the option of utilizing him in that defensive midfield role.
Canada, as you know, got here by virtue of a couple of ties against Costa Rica and South Korea, and then a coin toss that went in their favor, and then a stunning 2-1 upset over Mexico on a golden goal by Richard Hastings. Trinidad and Tobago got here by losing to Mexico 4-0, and beating Guatemala 4-2, and then Costa Rica 2-1 in their quarterfinal match. Arnold Guarica scored in each of the last 2 games, so he's got 2 goals in the tournament. Here's Pescasolido. Hastings now on number 17. That's Rozier.
A rather harsh foul. I thought Richard Hastings did a good job standing up, not committing himself.
And it looks as though Hastings maybe said a little bit too much after the fact, and yes, indeed, he's been booked.
Well, whether that warranted a caution or not, I don't think it did. Richard Hastings was simply just a little frustrated. He thought he was doing a good job of holding up the Trinidad player. As a result, gets a free kick, and for his cursing, gets a yellow card.
So the first caution of the day goes against Canada, Richard Hastings. Trinidad now pushing forward again. Here's Latavy. And there's a play in, but that's offside. Oh, it's not offside. I thought for a minute it was. Is it still close and in trouble for Canada, and finally cleared off the line with Greg Forrest down and out of position. Oh, baby, that was a close one. So Trinidad and Tobago having several opportunities here after less than 15 minutes.
Canada have given up more chances in this 15 minutes than they did in offside. They did in the South Korea and Mexico matches collectively.
Joe St. Clair must be pleased at the effort his charges are putting forth so far this evening.
But once again, it's all irrelevant. What Trinidad needs to do is obviously take advantage of these chances. Canada are used to playing in this fashion. They can soak up the pressure. As long as Trinidad don't score, it gives them a chance to come away at the other end.
Another look at how close that was before it was finally cleared off the line by David Zauza, who was back. Pescasolido. Clark. And Zauza. Good work from David Zauza, but he can't get it across.
Very good work from David Zauza, and this is a much more encouraging start for Zauza than the performance that he had in the previous two games. He seems to be getting on the ball. He seems to be taking players on at the right time.
Jeff Clark now. And now it will be Trinidad and Tobago's ball.
Jeff Clark has created an impression in the 3 games that he's played. Yesterday, I got a call from David Durr, the coach of the MLS Dallas Burn, and he's interested at perhaps bringing in Jeff Clark and having a look at it.
Well, it's good news all around, these Canadian performances, because as we all know, there are several unattached players here. Clark is one, Martin Nash is another, and their performances here may solve that problem. As teams from here in the MLS and perhaps Europe get a closer look and maybe will be willing to bite.
Well, certainly the players that are unattached aren't doing themselves any harm. Even players like Carlo Corazon, who will likely be on a free transfer at the end of the season, people will take notice of the fact that right now he's the leading goal scorer and it's not done yet, so he could, or he's tied for the leading goal scorer. But he is a player that wants to move, and certainly, again, scoring at this level, 3 goals is not going to hurt him in that regard.
Angus Eve there of Trinidad and Tobago. Corazon down, Eve then, Rougier, close quarters, Brennan comes up with it.
I think that Jim Brennan might be paying the price for his success. He's been very dominant for Canada, but he certainly hasn't had the freedom in this tournament that, well, we saw him against Jamaica at Varsity Stadium, and for 15 minutes he looked like a world beater. But he hasn't had the room in this tournament to go at players and go by them as he's capable of doing.
DeVos flicking that one forward. Back to DeVos, who sends it in there, and Corazon was there, but so was one of the Trinidad and Tobago defenders. Now they come back. Naked. Lorica. That one broken up by Hastings. Rougier.
Trinidad have been ranked in the top 50 for what seems to be like a long, long time.
And we've been wondering about that.
And that...
Another shot there, just off the mark. Wow.
And that's Nixon, who's got a great left foot, cut inside the Canadian defense. And I think it clipped the outside of the post. No, just missed it.
So Trinidad and Tobago now, with under 20 minutes gone, have had several opportunities, and that was maybe the best shot, but it was off the mark, but he got a lot on that one.
Well, the other two chances that they had came more from center goal. This chance came from a more acute angle, but certainly a better strike.
Well, this game pattern here developing quite a bit the same as we've seen in the past with Canada, where Canada starts more slowly, but somehow find a way late in the game.
Well, the only difference is the trend after the first game against Costa Rica was Canada gave up very few chances. Craig Forrest had hardly any work to do in goal. In this game, Trinidad, in 20 minutes, have created a number of chances, and it's more a result of their poor finishing than Craig's good goalkeeping that the score is still 0-0.
Can't control that one, so TNT take over. Carlo Corazon, the active Canadian goal-scoring leader with 9, thanks to his recent flurry, and 3 in this tournament. Sousa fighting there with Arnold Dwarika.
Dwarika for Trinidad seems to have almost a free role. He's coming back into midfield to collect the ball, and then other times he's up front with his striking partner, Jaron Nixon. Certainly a very capable player.
Running back to recover there for Canada. Dwarika. In the game for more. Nixon with it in front, broken up. Hastings now. Salido goes up for that one, and he comes down a little worse for wear. And the card immediately goes up. Look.
Wow. It didn't look like a cautionable offense. Both players had their feet up. Trinidadian defender really didn't seem to follow through, but Canada will take that. It's a free kick from shooting distance.
Pescasolido with Sherlin David in that little altercation. Canada with a set play here. Taking their time to set this one up. Corazon there with Hastings.
Carlo Corazon, 3 goals, obviously wants to shoot this thing.
And he does take a shot at it, and it's right at the keeper, Ince, who bobbles it and has to be quick to recover, and I think he took a foot in the head as well.
Well, he took a foot in the head, but I'm sure he'd rather be holding his head by taking a foot in the head as a result of that altercation than holding his head having let that shot in, because that was a shot that was straight at him. He made a mess of it, and he was just fortunate to recover.
And 2 Canadian players were right on him. One was Pescasolido, and the other one was Stalteri, and I think it might have been Stalteri whose right leg clipped him.
But the ball was free, so both Stalteri and Pescasolido were instinctively looking for the tap-in.
And on that angle, you got a good look at how Ince covered up just seconds, fractions of a second before Stalteri was there. So Canada's best chance coming on a bobbled ball by Clayton Ince.
Having watched the Mexico game, certainly Ince is
and
not
they got a chance here. They've got an opportunity here, but that is offside, and so that play fizzles for Trinidad and Tobago, but it looked good there as it was developing.
Well, you can just see that the back 2 hold their line. Trinidad are running into an offside position. Speaking of Ince, who bobbled that last free kick, Shaka Hislop, obviously with a broken leg, isn't here. And I think if there's a weak link to this Trinidadian team, it is Ince. In the first game against Mexico, he gave up what I consider to be 2 soft goals early on, and that provided a big hole for Trinidad to try and dig their way out of.
Well, if the goalkeeping is weak, it still remains up to Holger Osiek's men to take advantage of that and get some chances, and they've only had the one really so far. Anthony Rogier, Carlo Corazon. There's DeVos now. Guarica. And another opportunity developing here for Trinidad and Tobago. But they get a little fancier, try to at least, and Stalteri was there to clear that one off.
And in the past, that's one of the things that Trinidad have been guilty of. They seem to overindulge. In this game, I think they've gotten it, they've given it, their passing has been crisp and sharp. And in that instance there, Jaron Nixon took far too many touches and as a result gave the ball away.
Sherlin David. He's naked, now Guarica. They have to come all the way back, and Guarica coughs it up, and so Canada with another opportunity here. This is Zauza, who sends it across, but that play fizzled badly for Canada.
Zauza certainly making more of an impact in this game than he has in the previous matches.
Well, and he was substituted for, as we all saw, by Martin Nash in the last game against Mexico, and there's some speculation as to how happy David Zauza was about being substituted for, as Trinidad try again to get in here, and it's cleaned off the line. They're out of the box at least. Jaron Nixon in for Dwight York and getting some opportunity.
There's a good snapshot there of the number of white shirts back behind the ball. So they're adopting the same structure as they have done in the previous 3 matches.
Rogier working on Brennan. Gets the cross in. Watson got a bit of a head on it, but it's still in trouble here as far as Canada's concerned. Guarica then sends it back. Trinidad maybe messing this one up before it's done, but they still have possession.
And in tight quarters, Trinidad looking very, very confident at this point.
Richard Hastings with the foul there, and he'll have to be careful, working on the yellow card. That one against number 8, Angus Eve. Canada unbeaten now in their last 9 games, dating back to a 2-0 loss to Saudi Arabia on July 9th. They've won 5 and drawn 4 since then. Whoa, and that one is just over the top of the net.
Craig Forrest looking quite comfortable there. I think he's having a little shake of his head. He knew that that was well over, probably from the time it left the Trinidad's player's foot. Too much height. And one of the things that impressed me most about Craig Forrest in that match versus Costa Rica was obviously his shot stopping and his control of the box, but he became a real leader. You could see him physically directing players, verbally directing players, and with his experience, that's what he needs to do, and there's nothing better for the team in front of a goalkeeper who takes command like that.
During this first nearly half an hour, there's no doubt that Trinidad and Tobago have had more good opportunities. Canada with basically the one, Trinidad and Tobago with a handful. Marvin Andrews.
And if we're to go on previous form, that might be a good sign.
Here's Naked.
Tight mesh.
Naked again. Stalteri with the foul that time.
Of the two central midfielders, Ladaby is certainly the better known, but I've been very impressed with Naka. In the match versus Guatemala, he was all over the park defensively and offensively, and in this particular game, he's done a good job once again of working both sides of the ball.
Trinidad and Tobago with lots of short passes once they get into the Canadian zone, and for the most part making it work in order to get opportunities on Craig Forrest. Stalteri working on this one.
And certainly that's the difference. This Trinidad team are keeping possession in areas away from the Canadian goal, but they're able to, once they get that opportunity, to create chances, which South Korea weren't able to do, and nor were Mexico for that matter.
Virgil St. Clair, head coach of Trinidad and Tobago. No score with half an hour gone here in the semifinal. Larica heads that one across the center line. Menezes to DeVos. Watched by Nixon. Nixon in for York. Now you'd wonder, I'll ask you this one, why would Dwight York build up all those air miles, come back to the West Coast in North America, and not play?
I can only think that he has been accused in the past of not having the commitment to play for Trinidad and Tobago, and it might be that he wants to show that he is committed to play for this team, even if he's not fit. Perhaps they're looking ahead to World Cup qualifying. So that's the only reason I can think that he would be here.
Paul Pescasolido, yet to see anything dynamic from him in this tournament. Here's Rogier. And that wayward ball goes nowhere, and so Watson sends it back to Forrest. Menezes.
The back three of Menezes, Watson, and DeVos looks solid once again. Perhaps a little unfortunate in this whole process has been Paul Fennick, who started off the first game very well, came down with a back injury late in the match, and hasn't been able to gain his spot back from Richard Hastings, who's come in and taken advantage of that opportunity. But I know that Holger Osiek highly regards Paul Fennick's ability, so he'll certainly be probably the next one in if there is an injury at the back or one of the regular back three is not available.
Here's Hastings. Stalteri. Now Canada quite content to go all the way back when they need to, and Trinidad and Tobago not pressing that much at this point when Canada have the ball on their own side of the center stripe.
I think both teams are virtually dropping off to the halfway line and allowing the other team possession in their own half.
Larica. Again, short passes, moving the ball around in order to get that opportunity, and it could come here, but no. Canada doing a good job, Jeff Clark that time, to clear that one out.
Jeff Clark doing a great job of just pinching in from his right flank position, spotting the danger and getting across the dangerous attack coming from the left side of the Trinidadian attack.
Gunner to TNT. Short one. Good cross in front, but headed out.
Canada not taking any chances at this point. Not playing pretty.
Zauza and Ladaby, look at that battle. And it goes against Zauza. The bottom line is Trinidad and Tobago will have another opportunity here with Ladaby on the ball. Puts it in, and that's at close quarters. And it's still available until finally a weak effort by Marvin Andrews.
And that's a great ball in from Ladaby, a fast ball curling in towards Craig Forrest, not really giving him any chance to come off of his line. but in the end, Canada does well to defend the cross.
Greg Forrest, who was playing in the Gold Cup and hasn't played much for Canada this year before that. The area in the goal mouth was basically owned by Pat Onstad for most of the summer matches. In fact, all of them. Onstad now backing up Craig Forrest. Zauza has really come on strong in this game, hasn't he?
Well, he's done well on both sides of the ball. He's been more effective going forward. And certainly defensively, he's made himself a nuisance. He's got himself back and got himself back goal side on most occasions.
Rougier, nice play there to get it into the box. Oh, and Watson takes his man down, and that's going to be a penalty. Jaron Nixon will get an opportunity here on Craig Forrest after being hauled down in the box by Mark Watson.
A great ball in from Rougier, an in-swinging left-footed cross that fell just short of Mark Watson, and I think Mark Watson got caught going over the top of the Trinidadian attacker. I can't see who it is, and it's Nixon. And if Mark Watson had not made an effort to get across there, I think Nixon would have had a tap hit.
Well, as it is, he's going to have a free run here at Craig Forrest. A tough situation right now for Canada. No score in the game. Time rolling on in the first half, and Jaron Nixon in a perfect position to break this deadlock here for Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, it appeared to be a foul, and I don't think there was any real intent there. Mark Watson obviously realized that he was struggling to get goal side of the ball and had to make every effort to do so.
And so David Naked will take this shot for Trinidad and Tobago. And Craig Forrest outguesses him as Naked did a little stutter step, and Forrest went the right way.
Psychologically, Craig Forrest won that battle hands down. We'll see Craig Forrest's position before the shot. He's showing him that side. Stutter step doesn't work. In fact, it doesn't confuse anyone other than himself. And Craig Forrest does a great job and gets across and holds on to it, not even giving up a rebound.
Textbook goaltending by Craig Forrest on the penalty by Jaron Nixon, and the look on his face speaks volumes.
Well, and that was certainly a bit of gamesmanship on Craig Forrest's part, and it worked in his favor.
And so with under 10 minutes to go in the first half, there is still no score in this semifinal. And how big might that play be by Craig Forrest when we get late into this game? Here comes Trinidad and Tobago one more time.
Well, Trinidad have to feel disappointed. They've had chances. They now have missed a penalty shot. They've had, in general, the run of play, but have not been able to convert that on the only place that matters, and that's the scoreboard.
Pescasolido. Bothered by Naked. Brennan there to help out. Korzen with a little back pass for Brennan, who's bothered by Rougier.
And that's where aside from scoring goals, which obviously is his first priority, Carlo Korzen is also very good with his back to goal, and he demonstrated that on that occasion and also added a clever little back heel.
There's Naked. The man who missed the penalty. Actually, he didn't miss it. Forrest beat him.
Well, Naked was trying to, and if in fact he had scored, it may have been a retake, because you are not allowed to go up and stutter and actually stop your run, which is what he did. But in the end, he fooled himself.
Forrest now for Canada to put it back in play.
Well, they're picking an all-star team, and you'd have to think that after his display against Costa Rica in the first game and saving this penalty here tonight, Craig Forrest would be in line for that all-star goalkeeper spot.
Watson sends it across to DeVos. Back to Menezes. Corazon working on Rogier. Brennan was there to help him.
And Rogier on this right flank doing a good job offensively, helped to set up the penalty. And when he needs to, he gets back and he defends very, very well. He plays for Port Vale, English First Division.
There's Hastings, hero from the other day. Nothing doing there. Ogorosiak working on that 9-game unbeaten streak.
Another interesting characteristic of this Trinidad team is that they are playing a 4-4-2, which is very uncommon for Caribbean teams. Normally they play with a spare man at the back, but they're quite comfortable going with a 4-4-2, and right now they look very, very much in control playing in that formation, as they did against Guatemala in their 4-2 defeat of Guatemala.
Menezes, who has moved up a little bit in this game. Naked knocks it back in for Trinidad and Tobago. Here's Lataby. Things settling down just a little bit here as we get close to the end of the first half.
And you can see that Trinidad don't hesitate to put their foot through the ball if they're in any danger at the back. In the past, again, the Caribbean and Central American countries have almost been guilty of overindulging at the back.
Jaron Nixon is the injured player for Trinidad and Tobago. He's the man who has replaced Dwight York in this game, so they don't want to lose him, but he looks like he's in a bit of trouble with the challenge by DeVos.
I don't know if it was the challenge or the way he landed that resulted in the injury.
The staff works on him as time winds down. No score, Canada, Trinidad and Tobago. The winner to take on Colombia for the Gold Cup championship. Canada, until this year, had never advanced beyond the first round in the Gold Cup. They've done better than that this year by a lot. Bertil St. Clair giving his charges directions. Getting through the first round, albeit on a coin toss. Then defeating Mexico in the quarterfinals. And now here, even with Trinidad and Tobago late in the first half. As Nixon is helped off the field, and that does not look good for him. Canada now down the right side, and the ball goes in over top of everything. So Clayton Ince has taken a knock here for Trinidad and Tobago, and now it's Jaron Nixon. So they're getting their share of knocks and bruises here.
Well, it's not been that physical a match. I don't think either injury was a result of anything intentional.
So Nixon is off, yet to be replaced. We'll see what happens there. Dwarika can't do anything. Stalteri to Pescasolido. Back for Stalteri. Loses it to Lataby. He's a tricky one. Challenge there by Hastings, but Naked comes away with it.
Again, Trinidad very comfortable keeping possession. The Canadians doing a good job of staying with runners, coming out and engaging this Trinidad team, but Trinidad are comfortable on the ball. They haven't created as many chances in these latter stages as they did early on, but most of the play has been in Canada's defensive half.
Here they come again. Dwarika there working with a teammate. And Forrest now. All the way down to where Carlo Corazon is positioned with two defenders draped all over him.
And that's an indicator of the confidence that this Trinidad team is playing with. They were essentially 2 for 2 at the back there. And most of the time, you always like to have a spare man, but Trinidad quite prepared to go man for man at the back.
Lataby. Naked. Lataby. He takes a shot at it, and Forrest had to be on his mark there. That might be his best save apart from the penalty.
Well, Lataby cuts inside. Trinidad, in general, seem reluctant to shoot, but in this case, Lataby got all of it, and it was a knuckleball that Craig Forrest simply did well just to get behind and parry away. And Jeff Clark, I believe, comes back in and plays it for a corner. Great strike by Lataby, gets all of it, and you can see it's actually dipping and moving, and Craig Forrest again does well just to get his hands behind it.
So the storyline continues. Trinidad and Tobago getting their chances. Craig Forrest more than equal to the challenge. Duarica was in alone there. Forrest had to knock that one away.
And that's a little concerning for the Canadian defense. Trinidad seemed to be collecting that second ball off of the knockdown. Craig Forrest having to come off his line and punch it away.
There's Jaron Nixon on the sidelines for Trinidad and Tobago, and it does not look good for him as we are now into stoppage time with 2 minutes to be added on here.
That central striker position for Trinidad seems to be a bit hexed. First Dwight York, and now his replacement Nixon looking as though he might not be able to carry on.
Well, according to that graphic provided by the host broadcaster, it is Jaron Nixon going out and Brent Rahim going in. And here come Trinidad and Tobago one more time. And that is the substitute there, I believe, trying to get a shot at that. Hastings then knocks it away.
That was Lataby once again down in the Canadian attack, looking like he'd lost possession, but whilst on his backside, still able to make a quality pass.
Zausa chips it back. It's Menezes. Hastings. Brennan. Shot in, and it almost got through, where there were a couple of Canadians waiting.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, there's the weak link right there. Ince, but he's not been tested enough to really indicate whether that's the case or not. The only real chance that Canada have had came off the free kick, which he bobbled.
Brennan now with just a few seconds left, perhaps the last opportunity for Canada here in the first half, and that's knocked way out of over the line and over the net.
How's that for a goal kick? Puts it down and splits 2 Canadian players. Lots of confidence.
And there is the halftime whistle, and so no damage done. This one fizzled a little bit towards the end of the first half. Trinidad and Tobago with the better scoring opportunities for Bertil St. Clair. Clayton Ince getting banged on the head, but he did what he had to do. But Canada, thanks once again to Craig Forrest, is equal with Trinidad and Tobago after 45 minutes. Our halftime show coming up. Coach and OCX assistant Bruce Twomley on the left as we get set to start the second half. The team switching sides, of course, as we get set to go here, and something's got to give in the next little while. Richard Hastings scored the big goal against Mexico, the golden goal. One of these teams will go through to the final against Colombia. And a substitution for Canada. We've got Paul Fennett coming on, and coming out of the game will be Jeff Clark. So what do you read into that?
Well, we don't know whether Jeff Clark is injured or not. He wasn't really involved that much in the first half. However, what it does indicate is that Holger Osik is quite content to stay solid as opposed to inserting a player like a Marty Nash and perhaps taking a little more initiative. And maybe he's concerned that Martin Nash doesn't have the 45 minutes and perhaps the extra time if it comes up. But they will continue to stay solid with Paul Fenech playing on the right-hand side of midfield.
We're underway then. Trinidad and Tobago pushing forward. DeVos knocks that one out, but it'll be a throw-in to Trinidad and Tobago. (17) is Rougier. Headed away by Watson. Headed away even more by DeVos there. Stalteri. Canada can't do anything on that foray.
If Canada,
Stokely Mason, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
If Canada want to initiate more of an attack, they're going to have to get the service from the middle of the park. And right now, Paul Stalteri, again, is doing a very workmanlike job in midfield, but really is not creating all that much from there. And a player like a Martin Nash certainly is capable of doing that, but perhaps it's too early. But if the attack is going to develop more so, then it needs to come from the middle of the park. And right now, that didn't happen in the first half, and it doesn't appear to be happening at this early stage of the second half.
Just nicely underway here in the second half. No substitutions at the half for Trinidad and Tobago, although they lost Jaron Nixon to injury late in the first half. He's the man who has replaced Dwight York, who is unavailable to play due to an injury he suffered with Manchester United last weekend in a league game. Canada with a substitution to begin the second half. Paul Fenech in for Jeff Clark.
Paul Fenech is playing on the right-hand side of midfield. I don't know if he's ever played there before. I know he's played in virtually every role along the back, but I don't know if he's played on the right-hand side of midfield or in midfield for that matter. But the one thing that he will be able to bring to the team is from set plays. He has scored a lot of goals at his club side in Scotland. So that is one aspect that Canada perhaps will benefit from with the insertion of Paul Fenech.
Here's David Souza. Leaving it for Brennan. Good ball into the middle, but headed away effectively.
And the reason that Jim Brennan makes the trek from the left side over to the right to take that free kick is because of the quality of ball that he knocks in. Just a little bit short on that occasion, but any ball that's in swinging and has pace on it is difficult to defend against.
Leighton Ince now sending it back. Headed away by DeVos. That one bounced off the head of Pescasolido and maybe the forehead. I don't think he was planning that to happen. Forrest now. Canada's ball, but the referee says not from that spot.
Another distinct difference in this game versus the previous three is the physical aspect of the game. This Trinidad team is a big team, and if you look at the two central defenders, they're well over 6 foot. In most cases, and certainly in the last 3 games, Canada enjoy a distinct height advantage, but not so in this one.
Menezes launches one downfield, right to Ince. Watson headed that away, and I think he might have, the front of his head perhaps collided with the back of the head of the player from Trinidad and Tobago.
In fact, Watson may have been trying to do what forwards normally do against him, and that's draw the foul, because it didn't look like there was a lot of contact made, but the referee wasn't having any of it.
Watson back up quickly, and he's okay. Guarica. Naked. Once again, Trinidad and Tobago working in tight in the middle of the park, but Canada break out now with Souza. Rougier knocking it away, but Brennan sends it back in. Naked.
Trinidad opting to play side to side, although they're not looking to get a lot of crosses into the box. They'd rather try and get it 30 yards out and then look to try to play their 1-2s or try to split the defense with the ball into an on-rushing Trinidadian forward. But they're looking very this is the best that I've seen a Trinidad team play from as far back as I can remember. They look comfortable. They look fairly well organized defensively. And if you factor in that Shaka Hispla is available in goal, it gives them, perhaps it solves the problem of goalkeeping. Although up to now, Ince hasn't let them down yet, although he hasn't had a lot to do.
Brent Rahim, the substitute, making a bit of a run there. Trinidad still coming forward. Guarica takes a shot, and Forrest had to be quick moving to his right.
And not an easy save. It's down low, so Craig Forrest is coming across, and he has to scuttle back and get the hand down and push it away for a corner. Great save. Extended his whole body across to tip that around the post. Good shot from Guarica in that he doesn't take a lot of backswing, so Craig Forrest not really aware of the fact that it's coming.
As he was earlier in the tournament, Craig Forrest has been simply outstanding in this game for Canada. As Lataby launches one in there, Guarica tried to get ahead on it. It's knocked clear. Trinidad perhaps sensing that one of these moments will go their way and an opportunity will turn into a goal.
Well, if this were the first game of the tournament, there may be concern on the Canadian behalf, but we've seen them play 3 games, most of them similar to this, outside of the fact that they're giving up more chances in this game, and they don't look rattled. In Craig Forrest, you've got a keeper who's obviously on top of his game right now, and the Canadian team in front of him is obviously enjoying that confidence.
The way it's going today with them getting so many closes, you just wonder how long can they survive this, because the chances are better for Trinidad and Tobago than they were for South Korea or for Costa Rica, even though Costa Rica got the 2 goals.
There's no question. And, well, this match for me is very similar to the match against Costa Rica. They scored the 2 goals, and they did create a number of chances. The next 2, Canada did not allow anywhere near the number of chances they did against Costa Rica. Trinidad beat Costa Rica to get to this stage, so it obviously indicates that that result against Mexico, that 4-0 defeat early on, was perhaps an abnormal performance on Trinidad's part.
Another opportunity. Menezes was there, and another shot. Guarica lined one up, and it was deflected away again. Trinidad and Tobago really coming on strong here now, early in the second half. Souza then clears for Canada. It's Corazon.
Well, you've either got Craig Forrest making great saves, or in that last sequence, you've got 2 Canadian defenders sprawling in front to block the shot, because that shot was hit from very close range, and I don't know if Craig Forrest would have had a chance, but Canada defensively are doing everything right.
Stalteri, he just simply led himself too much with that one until Trinidad and Tobago get it out. And we wonder if the likes of Martin Nash or Garrett Cush might come on here. Osieck still has Nash and Cush available. He's also got Dwayne De Rosario. He's also got Elvis Thomas, who we have not seen yet in this tournament. And here's Guarica, and another save by Forrest.
Well, Guarica seems to be finding the space and the ability to get the ball in dangerous positions. Makes a good run away from Jason DeVos, takes one touch, gets his head up, and tries to beat Craig Forrest on the near side, which is going to be very, very difficult to do. More often than not, you're going to have a better chance if you strike that across the face of the goal.
Corner kick, Trinidad and Tobago. And again, Forrest had to pounce on that. Craig Forrest earning his keep here for Canada at the Gold Cup, especially in this one against Trinidad and Tobago.
Here you see Trinidad winning the corner in a rather harmless effort that Craig Forrest has no problems dealing with.
Trinidad and Tobago retain possession in the offensive zone.
And Lataby, as we had anticipated prior to the game, is the dominant player in the middle of midfield for Trinidad. Here we see him in the build-up.
And Menezes is called for the foul on that one, and maybe he had better mind his manners here.
Menezes is right. He had a hand on Lataby, but he certainly did not stop his forward progress, and the referee was fooled into a foul in a very dangerous area.
Another opportunity perhaps here for Trinidad and Tobago. As time wears on, you don't need to be told of the importance of a goal here, and that one out of harm's way by Lataby.
The fact that Canada have a number of tall players, and you see Jason DeVos on the end of the wall there, it makes it very, very difficult for a player to actually get the ball over top of the wall, to come down in time to actually score a goal from that position. And Craig Forrest coming across, but always comforted by the knowledge that it was going over the bar. Paul Fenech should enjoy this game. It's an opportunity for him to get forward, certainly more than he's able to do when he plays at the back.
Here's Watson now for Canada. Souza will take it. Far side for Brennan. Rogier watching him. For Brennan again, who's bothered by Rogier inside the box.
And Brennan yelping, thinking that he was certainly impeded with as he made his run into the Trinidad box. And it looked like he was. It looked like he may have got a yellow card for his efforts, although we can't be certain.
We can't be certain, but judging from what we have seen, it appeared as though the referee had a card out, and you could hear the crowd hooting and hollering. So it appears as though Brennan has been cautioned.
And all referees have their quirks. Some will take a certain amount of verbal abuse. Some will take none at all. And obviously, in this case tonight, anything that you argue or complain about, you're tempting fate, and you could end up with a yellow card.
And Brennan has indeed been given a yellow card. Come Trinidad and Tobago again. Cleared away by Canada one more time. Souza. He goes down. They play on. Hastings, far side. Across the goal mouth, it goes harmlessly.
And Canada, when they find themselves in the attack, the difference between Trinidad and Canada's attacks are that Canada always seem to be rushing, whereas the Trinidadians always seem to be comfortable and composed.
Ince launches this one. Souza. Souza again. He has really hustled tonight.
Well, he's got an urgency about him, and he's got a spark to his game tonight.
Brennan sends it across. Both Corzin and Pesca-Solito were in the box. Never got to them.
That being the case with David Souza, you'd like to see him get on the ball as much as he can, because that's what Canada are lacking, is that player that wants the ball in the middle of the park, that's prepared to get it off the the back players and try to create things from midfield.
Zauza with the corner. Into the box, and Corazon had a shot, but it didn't turn into anything for Canada. Whoever loses this game today will get a chance for revenge in May at Varsity Stadium in Toronto, when these two teams will hook up for a friendly, which may not be all that friendly.
And both teams at that time will be preparing for preliminary round qualifying.
So it'll be the World Cup.
That's right. It'll be a final tune-up for both teams. Both teams expected to advance beyond the preliminary rounds.
Stalteri losing it and getting it back. Brennan back for Stalteri, who has a shot, and the save by Ince, and then cleared. The best chance of the game for Canada right there from Paul Stalteri.
Well, Paul Stalteri with his best bit of work in the offensive half. Great 1-2 with Paul Pescasolido, and a good strike across the goal, and an excellent save by Ince.
Canada might be able to come to life perhaps after that one, as Ince gets a hand on it, looking like Craig Forrest on that play, but Canada's best chance of the game. Dwarika now, countering for Trinidad and Tobago. Menezes. Trinidad and Tobago slowly building.
Well, and the difference right now is that you can see the Trinidad players with their arms up to the side, perhaps lacking the options.
16, that's Brent Rahim, the substitute. Trinidad and Tobago coming back now. Canada perhaps coming on just a little bit here. They've had that opportunity, and perhaps that's given them a spark.
Well, they're certainly looking much more composed. Unlucky on that occasion, but enjoying more possession than they have done throughout the first half.
I fucking would have stopped it, for fuck's sake.
Trinidad and Tobago. Rahim. But not much of an opportunity there for Trinidad and Tobago to take advantage.
And Mark Watson coming across and tidying up, playing the way that he has played in the first 3 matches, very solid at the back.
Canada playing just a little bit better the last few minutes. And you wonder sometimes, we see it happen in hockey, a team has so many chances and can't score, and then they just start to fall back. It's like they're out of chances. They've been allotted as many as they're going to get if you don't take advantage. Bertil St. Clair looking on anxiously. Both coaches anxious at this moment. Forrest.
And at this stage of the game, you'd have to think that if either team were to be disappointed, it would be Trinidad with the amount of chances that they've had. And Canada certainly are beginning to play their way back into this match.
David Zauza again chasing that one down, couldn't come up with it, but he has run miles here this evening. Now, here's an opportunity with Dwarika on the end of it again. He's been dangerous tonight, and he sets up for a left foot, and another save from Forrest.
Well, and Dwarika shows that he's capable with his left foot as well. Comes back inside and doesn't beat the defender, tries to bend the ball around Craig Forrest, and Craig Forrest sees it late, but makes a great save and gets across.
So evidently they are not out of chances yet.
And it's Dwarika that seems to be causing the most problems.
Headed away there by Canada. Back they come again. Angus Eve is number 8. And now Forrest will take over. DeVos. DeVos again. Now Menezes. Sousa. Downfield, but taken away. That's Ansel Elcock. Trinidad to put it in play, and things slowed down to a crawl here.
The pace of the game has slowed down, which will suit Canada. They're denying the Trinidadians goal-scoring opportunities and getting stronger themselves.
Guarica. Little 1-2 play. Guarica again, and another shot, but he didn't get anything on that.
Oh, I think he stubbed his toe. Great give and go between him and Latterby. Received the ball in the center of the goal, but obviously felt that he had to rush the shot, and in doing so, he stubbed his toe.
Well, as we get to the later stages, we can't be sure about Trinidad and Tobago, but we know that no team will be more fit than Canada. So if that's a factor, and here comes a good-looking play, and just knocked away at the last second as Canada had 2 men in here. Here's Corazon now, knocks it in front, and knocked back out again. Fennick. And that goes out for a corner.
Well, you mentioned fitness, and I don't, if anything, that's going to be in Canada's favor. All of the players coming from European backgrounds will certainly be in mid-season form, so that should not be a problem.
Ball right across, goes over everybody. Brennan. Chipping it back in. Header in front to Watson, and a goal for Canada! And Canada take the lead here on a header from Mark Watson.
Mark Watson up for a corner, and once again, it's the heading ability of Carlo Corazon that makes the chance. He gets up at the far post, knocks it back into the center of the goal, and Mark Watson there, having been up for a corner kick, finishes off the chance.
And you saw the sigh of relief etched on Holger Osiek's face right there. Mark Watson on display.
Watch Carlo Corazon up the far post. Up, great timing, heads it back into the middle, and Watson looks like a goal scorer, makes no mistake burying it into the net.
Mark Watson in the 67th minute. That's Carlo Corazon who headed it on. Watson's 3rd goal for Canada in his career in the 67th minute here has put Canada on top.
And you see Carlo Corazon getting well up off the ground, directing it back into the middle, not going for goal. And also, let's not forget the cross from Jim Brennan here. Nicely flighted ball to the far post. Carlo Corazon up and doesn't head toward goal, simply heads back across the goal. And we've got 3 Canadians lining up to score.
My goodness, the same storyline is it developing again. Canada outchanced, outpossessed, but getting the goal when they need it, and are now slightly over 20 minutes away from a trip to the Gold Cup final.
Well, and the goal actually comes at a point in the game where Canada were beginning to create opportunities.
And they come back with an opportunity right there that doesn't happen. Paul Pescasolido was in on that. And now we'll see what Trinidad and Tobago have left in the tank. They've had lots of chances. They seem to be well organized and have good sections of possession of the ball, but what will this do to them? Trinidad and Tobago coming back now. It's desperation time for them. trailing by a goal.
We know that Trinidad will not resort to simply hit and hope balls. They're going to continue to try to build up through the middle of the park and create those opportunities and make that final incisive pass as they get closer to goal.
That play broken up. Canada has come on stronger here in the last few minutes, and it's resulted in the go-ahead goal, and Trinidad and Tobago are back on their heels now. Hastings. The cross, and Brennan's in the box, but can't make a play.
Well, the goal has certainly given Canada the confidence. It's not like they're sitting back protecting the lead at this point. They're taking the initiative. They look quite comfortable. They're getting the ball. They're having a nice build-up. And Trinidad appear to be chasing it a bit at this point.
Here's Duarica. He has been the most dangerous man for Trinidad and Tobago, but he can't get through on that one. Here they come for more. It's Naked. Into the box and cleared out. Stalteri was back and he cleared it away again.
And again, Craig Forrest has to be delighted. The shots that the Trinidad are now taking are for the most part getting blocked before they get to him.
Here they come again. Carlo Corazon is back. It's everybody back now. Stokely Mason is number 15 who got it in front. It was cleared out, but they're still in possession of the ball. And looking dangerous every time. Now Canada on the counter. Pescasolido. Watson the goal scorer.
Canada can now sense that there's under 20 minutes to go. They've been resilient throughout. They've weathered a Trinidadian storm throughout most of the first half, although in this second half they've certainly gotten themselves back into the game. So if they can continue to stay disciplined, it looks like Canada could run out winners again.
Anthony Rozier puts that one back into play, and now Trinidad will launch another one. Marvin Andrews. Hastings. Brennan. Sends it in. Naked comes back now. Duarica. Duarica regroups. And they keep coming. Canada had come on strong the last few minutes. Trinidad and Tobago trying to reestablish their attack. And this looks dangerous here from Russell Latapi, but it's knocked away. They still have it. Stalteri is back. Virtually everybody is back.
Mark Watson dealt with that cross very comfortably. Difficult ball in from Latapi, and it almost handcuffed Mark Watson, but he had the ability to shuffle his feet and play it away.
Naked to Duarica. A left-footed shot there, and that one's basically right at Forrest this time.
Well, if you're the Trinidad players right now, you have to be looking up at Craig Forrest and feeling as though he's taking up an awful lot of that goal. It's going to take something special to beat him with the confidence that he's got going right now.
Craig Forrest has been simply outstanding in the Gold Cup tournament, and he has been outstanding tonight against Trinidad and Tobago, who have had several golden opportunities, but each and every time he has been there for Canada. And think back now about the penalty kick that he saved as well off the foot of David Naked. And right now, that's Zaza in pain. He was hauled down there rather vigorously.
Zalza's involved
Raheem.
physically. Both pulling and tugging at one another.
And although this is a tiny crowd, if there was ever any doubt where the support lied, you can tell now it's with Canada. They have come to life here since that goal.
Canada getting the benefit of what appears to be a soft call.
And look who's getting ready to come on. Martin Nash, who came on at about the same time, a little earlier than this, I think, against Mexico. But here he is. Martin Nash is into this game again.
Well, that just demonstrates a lot of confidence in Martin Nash. Canada are 1-0 up. Different circumstances to the last match when Martin Nash came in with Canada a goal down, needing to get the equalizer. But in this case, he comes on with Canada 1-0 up.
And the shot there, just off the mark.
And he comes in, obviously, to try to maintain the possession that Canada have generated over the last 15, 20 minutes. And that shot didn't miss by much.
So Holger Osiek inserting Martin Nash late in this game as he did against Mexico. All he did the last time was set up the tying goal, and then in extra time, the golden goal. Craig Forrest in no hurry now to put this one in play. Here's Watson.
And look for Martin Nash in the middle of the park to come and collect the ball and try to initiate attacks from the middle of midfield, as he did in the last game when he came on.
And as expected, it's David Zalza who he replaces again. This time Zalza is hurting a little bit, but he's done his job tonight. He has run crazy all night long. And now he gets to rest as Martin Nash takes over. Fennick sends it back for Forrest. Naked. Elcock. Is Stokely Mason. The goal scorer there, Watson.
And that's exactly what Canada would be looking for, is just to play the ball down the line, try and draw fouls, and keep the ball in Trinidad's half.
Martin Nash, he has no club team, folks. Well, he might after this tournament. A bicycle kick there, and it's right at Clayton Ince. And that, I believe, was Corazon who took that shot. Corazon, of course, scored a goal earlier in this tournament on a play like that.
Jason DeVos up well at the far post, and Carlo with an overhead kick that goes straight to the keeper.
Pescasolido crossing one in there. So as you can see, just over 10 minutes plus stoppage time still to go. Canada leading 1-0. A trip to the Gold Cup final at stake here in this match.
And Trinidad will know that there's still plenty of time left. They were winning 1-0 against Costa Rica and conceded a goal in injury time. Eventually they won it in overtime, but 10 minutes is a lot of time.
And there's another dangerous ball in front. That one was sent in by Stokely Mason, and it was Russell Ladeby who just missed.
Ladeby has to be very upset with himself. That looked like simply a tap-in. I don't know if he was surprised that he had so much space inside the 6-yard box, but he should have hit the target. Great ball in, away from Craig Forrest, in behind the Canadian defense, but he makes a mess of it.
And for once, Craig Forrest not having to make the save. Ladeby missed the whole net with that one. He had the ocean to put it in and couldn't find it.
And even though Craig Forrest didn't have to make the save, it's probably as a result of his good goalkeeping that Ladeby missed.
And Carlo Corazon was fouled there, and the referee quickly flashed the yellow card at the perpetrator. I'm not sure who it was. think it was 15. I think that was Stokely Mason. He was guilty in that one. Trinidad and Tobago will put everything they have into the next 10 minutes. Menezes fighting Latibi. Menezes content to let this play out for as long as he can, as the precious seconds dwindle down.
Menezes showing his composure, not panicking, and in the end doing the right thing and playing it out for a throw-in, but kills a few more seconds off the clock.
Ansel Elcock puts it back in. Stalteri losing out there. Richard Hastings marking his man, and now Brennan forcing Trinidad all the way back. Sherlin David wears number 6. And here they come again. That one doesn't work at all, though. Mason. Mark Watson, the defender, doesn't score that often, is not expected to. But in over 50 appearances for Canada, he now has 3 goals. None bigger than this one.
Look for Canada to take their time, any chance they get, whether it's from a throw-in, a goal kick, a free kick. They're going to try and run that clock down at this point.
The Gold Cup final match will be played Sunday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. The winner of this game against Colombia. Dwarika now for Trinidad and Tobago. But here come Canada. Pescasolido with room. Around the defender, but he just led himself a little too much, but that was a good move.
And that's where Paul Pescasolido, that's where we expected to see Paul Pescasolido at his best. Nice little over the ball step, but pushed it too far ahead of himself.
Latibi. Naked. Rougier. Back for Naked. They come again with those short passes, working it in front, but no dice that time. Hastings launches one. Corazon comes down with it.
Well, since the goal, Trinidad have had the one good opportunity through Latibi, but for the most part, Canada have done a good job of keeping possession of the ball, drawing a lot of free kicks, and denying Trinidad that time and space that they had, what seemed to be throughout the first half.
Paul Pescasolido taken down heavily on that play, fouled, and so it's a free kick here for Canada. And there it comes in, and on the far post, that was Jason DeVos, who's always up there on those plays.
Looking for Jason DeVos to head that back across the goal, but does the next best thing and attracts a corner kick.
Martin Nash sending it across, all the way across. Canada with some nice possession here, knocking precious seconds off the clock. Now Trinidad and Tobago will regroup. Vorosiek maybe looking calm, maybe looking probably just a little more anxious than he has since he took this job 15 months ago. Certainly inside he will be.
Well, it certainly has to be a positive anxiousness, in that if someone had told him, or anyone in Canada for that matter, that they'd be 6 minutes away from going to the Gold Cup final, he'd have probably said they were crazy.
Canada now to move it back out. But Trinidad pushing forward. Greg Forrest now. It was beating Honduras back in 1985 to get to the World Cup. That had to be big. The World Cup performance that year was not exactly scintillating. 3 straight losses without scoring a goal. They've never been back since. In fact, Canada have never really won anything since. And this is the best. I can't think of anything else, Bob, in terms of how far they've ever gone in a tournament.
Not at all. This is a tournament that we've talked about as the equivalent of the European Nations Cup in our region. And getting to the semifinal, beating Mexico along the way was a huge achievement. And this is even greater. Although Trinidad not ranked as high as Mexico, still winning the semifinal and ending up in the final of the Gold Cup is probably beyond anyone's wildest dreams.
Not ranked as high as Mexico, still 35-odd positions higher than Canada if you put any stock in such things. But the bottom line here is it's the CONCACAF Championship basically right here. The winner of this game has a spot in the Confederation Cup, which is huge.
It is huge, from the point of view of the quality of opposition that they'll play against. And perhaps equally important is the financial benefit that Canada will gain from being at such a tournament, in that the association's bottom line certainly could use some enhancing, and getting to the Confederations Cup will help that cause.
But it's not over yet. A little more than 3 minutes plus stoppage time still to come here for Canada as they try to fend off Trinidad and Tobago, who will just keep on coming.
Well, you have to wonder if Trinidad have anything left. They've created chances. They haven't, though, created chances in these latter stages, and that has to be concerning to them. Canada seem well in control of this match right now.
Well, we made the comparison to hockey where a team sometimes runs out of chances when they don't capitalize. Could that be the case for Trinidad and Tobago? Here they come again, but it's calmly headed away. Canada playing such a disciplined game under Holger Osiek. Now there comes Stalteri sending it down for Pescasolido, who looks prepared to take his time with the ball in the corner here.
Well, look for Pescasolido to do the right thing here, and that's try and kill the clock and try and attract the corner, which he does. And that's professionalism. At this stage of the game, they don't need to cross the ball into the box. They simply need to try and take seconds off the clock.
Mickey Trotman, number 14, getting set to come in here. Trotman replacing David Nakid, number 12.
Trotman is the player that scored the overtime winner against Costa Rica.
Perhaps Bertil St. Clair is a little superstitious in terms of bringing Trotman in now. And another man coming in as well. Number 7 is Evans Wise, and he's replacing Stokely Mason. Here's Nash, who has been rather silent, actually, since he has come on here in this game.
Well, he doesn't need to go and win the game. He simply needs to now just to maintain the lead. And a good corner kick, a short corner again, taking time off the clock.
Here's Pescasolido, who has perhaps come to life a little bit in the second half of this game. We haven't seen a whole lot from him in this tournament.
Well, you notice there that little change of pace. Once he collected the ball, he was away from the Trinidadian defender in a flash, and that's what he's capable of doing.
Trinidad defender brought down there, and the referee looks like he's ready to bring out the yellow card one more time, and he will against Tony Menezes. So another caution for Canada here. This comes at an inopportune time in an inopportune place on the field. Trinidad and Tobago on this foul by Menezes.
Well, if you're Trinidad and Tobago in this type of situation, they've had a couple of other occasions within shooting distance.
And as you can see again, this looks like deja vu, because this is exactly what happened with the Mexico game. First of all, Martin Nash came on, and then Garrett Cush came on, as he does now, to replace Pescasolido.
And if you're Trinidad, Ideally, you'd be better off trying to play the ball either side of the wall to get the strike on goal. If they try to play it over top of the wall, again, it's going to be a picture-perfect shot to beat Craig Forrest.
There's the shot, and that's not really all that close. Forrest made a half-hearted stab at it before he realized it was off the mark. Time running down on Trinidad and Tobago. They're always dangerous, as you've seen in this game, however.
And a shot that never, ever looked dangerous. They've tried that on a couple of other occasions, not had success, and similar result this time around.
So we're now into stoppage time. Time added on here. Canada and Trinidad and Tobago. A berth in the Gold Cup final is at stake here. Canada is now just seconds away from it. Garrett Cush. Stalteri is up there.
Canada doing a good job. Garrett Cush taking the ball towards the corner flag, not needing to cross it. All Canada need to do now is simply keep the ball in Trinidad's end.
Watson.
And there's a shout from Holger Osik from the bench.
You can hear
Keep it there, and that's exactly what they need to do.
Trinidad now. As you can see the clock, this could be their last gasp. Trinidad and Tobago, and I think they're out of gas.
They don't look like they have too many answers at this point.
The Gold Cup final will be Sunday afternoon. Colombia. Canada has played them once all time, losing by a score of 3-0. Osik looking at his watch. Here's Nash.
Another short free kick. This time, the referee's given a foul for obstruction on Martin Nash.
Stalteri goes up for that one. And there it is, folks. Canada's gold rush continues. They're in the final, as improbable as it sounds. A 1-0 victory here today at the Los Angeles Coliseum against Trinidad and Tobago. And look at this scene.
Well, Canada plays a similar match to what they have done in the previous three, perhaps allowing a lot more chances than they did in the last two. But in the end, run-out winners. And in the second half of the game, they were fully deserving of the victory.
And the other side to the story is they are now Football Confederation, formerly known as CONCACAF. They're the champions of this group, which means prestige, it means games against good countries, and it means money for the program. Another look at the goal.
Oh, Carlo Corson getting up great at the far post, and Mark Watson doing what any goal scorer would do, and that's put it in the back of the net.
And so the final score, Canada 1, Trinidad and Tobago 0. Canada is going to the final. Back in a moment.
Thanks, Jerry. Craig Forrest is with us, and obviously, Craig, a tremendous individual performance, a tremendous team performance. Tell me, at the start of this tournament, did you really believe that this team could go as far as it has?
No, I'd be lying if I said we thought we could. I mean, our goal was really to make it to the next round and face Mexico, and if we could do that, it would give us some experience to, first and foremost, give us that experience to bounce onto the World Cup qualifiers and then go from there. But we've had some luck. I mean, I went to a coin toss just to face Mexico. We did fairly well in the first two games, extremely well against Mexico, and a touch of luck here today.
You've been a part of this program for a number of years. The next game is a special one for you. You're going to crack 52 appearances to set a record for Canadian goalkeepers. Is that going to be a special moment?
Well, to be honest with you, I can't believe we're here, and everybody keeps telling me how many caps I've got and what's coming up next, but just for Canada to be in the final is just I can't believe it.
Craig Forrest, the outstanding player for Canada, emotional as we can see, as we can tell. Canada defeats Trinidad and Tobago 1-0 to go to the final of the Gold Cup here in Los Angeles.